My name is Lynn. Since I was a little kid, I've always been creating and organizing or arranging spaces. I mean, it's where my mind goes. And for the last 30 years, I've been working with people as a movement therapist. I'm a Feldenkrais teacher. And one of the things that I found was that, especially, I had clients that would come to me in my own private space, my own home office, and I also had clients who were seeing me in more clinical settings. And I really saw a difference in terms of how people responded in the different environments that they were in. And that when people were in the more clinical situations, let's say more medicalized situations, that's the kind of results we got. But whereas when they came into my space, it was very different. It really it supported touching upon the deeper issues that maybe are underlying movement problems that they're having, or just life in general. And so anyway, one of the things that, as I say, I've always done is I've always arranged, whatever it is that I have in my home, my office space, it's like I'm always working with that, creating these little environments, or big environments as the case may be. One of the things that I've noticed when people come into my space is that it calms them. And I certainly feel that for myself. And so what happened a while ago is clients, this was years ago now, clients were saying, could you do this? I wish my space were like this. Could you come and help me with that? And at first I thought, well, it's like, yeah, I do that for myself. I do that in my own spaces. And then it was like, why not? And I found the results amazing. So what I do, like say in terms of my spaces, I have a partner. We have different styles. We have a lot of stuff. I would say maybe I tend to be a little bit more minimalistic than he does. He's a collector. But, so we have to find some way to harmonize that. And I think that that's one of the things that goes on with people is how do you create a situation that is harmonious with you, that supports you, That's really the task. And I would say one of my major concerns really is aesthetic. I'm really looking at harmony and beauty and that kind of creating some peace. It can also create like excitement and joy. There's all different kinds of qualities to it, but it's really an emphasis on the, let's say, the more positive aspects of being a human being. So anyway, like I'm thinking about one client in particular who, she has a similar situation with a collector type husband, and she just felt really overwhelmed with how things had kind of gotten at it. She's a clinical psychologist and stuff. She got, so I came in, and what she had been battling with was this feeling of just utter, she'd come home from her office and she would just feel completely overwhelmed, weighted down by the chaos. And so by coming in and helping her, initially go, okay, what is not necessary here? What things can go? That's just a really minimal beginning kind of state. But then it's like, okay, the rest of the stuff is here. How do we put it together in a way that is not only functional, in other words, that you can move through your space and work and all that kind of stuff and find what you need to find, but how can you actually make it beautiful? How do you live? It's not like going out and, like some designer telling you, oh, you have to get this couch and that couch and everything. Like, well, okay, well, like maybe you want to live like that and, look like you're in a magazine. But the reality is for most people, we have things that are meaningful to us. We have things that we're not going to spend, like tens of thousands or more dollars buying new things. How do we put together what we have? And so one way to look at it is kind of like the mandala principle. So if we think of ourselves as being the center of that, this is really what the mandala is about. If you look at any kind of Tibetan Thangka, if anybody knows what those are, what you'll see is there's a central figure. And that is like that's the essence. Okay? And so the environment that's around that, all the things, whatever those are, could be color, it may not make sense to anybody, but those actually have symbolic meaning. That is the environment in which the central essence lives. I mean, lives is not quite the right word, but resides, whatever. I mean, I'm not coming up with a good word for it. But everything is in support, and it's actually not separate. And I think that that's one of the things about our space. When our environment is chaotic, when our environment is cluttered, it's like that, for most people, is not going to make them feel good. That is not going to uplift them. It's kind of depressing for most people. And I think that it can be depressing on a level that most people do not even realize. So what I see my interest in terms of doing that with other people is what is something that helps them to open, helps them to feel better about themselves because they're creating an environment that they feel better being in. When I was a little kid, during the Johnson administration, Lady Bird Johnson, President Johnson's wife, started a campaign called Make America Beautiful. And it was an anti-litter campaign. And I think the real heart of that was to have people start actually paying attention to their action and its impact on their environment. And it really made a difference. So for somebody who is like, grew up in this country and is, say, my age, the idea of actually throwing something out the car window, I mean, it's almost unthinkable. You don't do it. So, it's so foreign idea. So by doing these kinds of things, like we start, it could be starting like with your own desk. It could be starting with a drawer, where it's like you're going to attend to it. You're going to pay to attention. What is this little space about? And I'm going to be the caretaker of that space. I'm going to do some things with that, and I have to pay attention. So I'm first going to do the initial arrangement. Nothing is final. It can always change. There can always be little adaptations. I mean, because our understanding and our sense of harmony really grows. We start with something little, and that seed, it's like that seed can grow as we nurture that. And sometimes people get really overwhelmed. They think, oh God, it's like, how can my space ever be like this? Because it's like I have no time and stuff like that. You start with something little. As I say, you start with a drawer. You start with your little whatever that is. Could be your bathroom, whatever, doesn't matter. You start with that, and it's like you do that, and every time you're in that space, you notice. One of the things you might notice is like something's out of place, or you just like, haven't been taking care of it. Okay, you take care of that. Again, it's like it's tending it, and so that act of caring for is really an extension of caring for ourselves, or learning to care for ourselves, because our environment and ourselves are not separate. They are not separate.
It's a great lesson.